Welcome to the Trail Chasers podcast. I'm your host, Dean Horwitz, and I'm excited to share this journey with you. Each week, we'll be hitting the trails with some of South Africa's most inspiring trail runners, diving into the topics that matter most and uncovering the secrets of this incredible sport. Lace up your trail shoes and join me on this adventure. New episodes every week. Today, Musa and I welcome Adidas Terrex athlete Robbie Simpson to the podcast. Robbie has not only won UTCT PT55 twice in a row, but he also holds the record on the course. We are very excited to dive in and chat all about UTCT and Robbie's trail running career. Welcome to the Trail Chasers, Robbie.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And I guess welcome to Cape Town, although you probably feels quite familiar by now. So the reason why I wanted to have you on the podcast, other than the fact that you're an exceptionally talented runner, was because when I kind of watch you, I find that you're quite at ease on both road and trail. And I think that's quite a unique kind of characteristic for a trail runner, especially to have that kind of comfort and ease. So I really want to dive into that and find out more about that. Also just fascinated by how long you've kind of been in the sport and both road and trail and, obviously the evolution of the sport throughout that time. It's just fascinating to kind of dive into that and see and find out what we can kind of learn about longevity and keeping fit and healthy during that time. So I want to start off, if you take me back to, I guess your last race was Otter. Talk to me a bit about like race day prep, strategies, how you kind of deal with kind of things in the week leading up to the race.
So now, after so many years of running, it all just sort of blends into not having to think about anything at all, and like autopilot takes over and everything just happens. But I guess I try and stay pretty relaxed, to be honest. Like, don't think about the race too much. I was staying in Nature's Valley until I think 2 days before the race, so that was really chilled. Even the day before, until the day of the prologue. So yeah, very quiet place, easy to just do your running, relax in between. Yeah, have a bit of a laugh, don't think too much about the race. And then it gets to about 24 hours before and I think, okay, now I need to get organized with nutrition and stuff and thinking about how to run it. And for some reason I find Otter quite a tough one because it's not an easy race at all. Like there's a lot of little tricky bits, obviously river crossings, rocky sections. It's quite technical. So for me, it's more nerve-wracking than lining up to another race because there's loads of things I can't control and I don't know much about. But in the end, I just tried to relax a lot and think about tactics. And I mean, I thought about the tactics, but I got it completely wrong because I ended up taking a wrong turn a bit.
Oh, wow.
But it was, I felt really good coming into the race, like fitness-wise. And then I got a little bit freaked out by the hot weather as well, but tried to, again, not think about that, just concentrate on the race. But as soon as the gun goes, then everything just becomes easy and then you just run and it's great.
And how big a factor does the kind of weather play? Do you have like a hot weather strategy and a cold weather strategy, or is it kind of like it's just adapt on the day type thing?
For nutrition, it's always good to have a hot and cold weather strategy because you just need more fluids when it's that hot. And that was exactly the thing that was important. Although I did misjudge it a little bit. I was thinking, I can definitely get away with like one flask of energy drink. And I think I didn't take any plain water for the first section till the first aid station, thinking like, I'm not going to be that thirsty there. But then it was already hot even from the start. As soon as you climbed the first climb and got on top of the cliffs, it was roasting hot. So then I was regretting not having like plain water and energy drink and then just having a bit more. But after that, like I did have the plan of taking more electrolytes, taking more fluids. And then, that did really work. It took a while to get into the swing of it because there aren't that many aid stations in the first like half. Yeah. So you had to like think ahead and think, okay, right, it's going to be like another 40 minutes or an hour until the next one. So fill up as much as I can. But pacing as well, like sometimes when it's that hot, you try to conserve yourself a bit and like say, okay, I'm not going to push so hard. Try and hold back a bit and be stronger at the end, but doesn't always mean that you'll be stronger at the end. So it's really hard to get it right, but a lot of it's mental, I think, as well, and just trying to Otter. I've done a lot of races this year that were hot, and on paper, Otter was probably maybe one of the hotter ones. Yeah. But I think because you cross so many little rivers and things, like I didn't find it that hot at all. Like with the breeze coming off the ocean as well, like it wasn't too bad. Okay. Yeah.
Good heat prep for UTCT.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes that can be worse, I think, just because I think last year was quite humid and I really felt that.
Yeah.
I think Dean, just on Otter, I mean, it's like one of the most loved races in South Africa. I think it was like our last Golden Trail Series race there. It's so hard.
Yeah.
And when we were watching the race, I mean, at one point, just like at halfway, I was like, surely this man is gone. You know,
Yeah.
how do you gather that mental strength to just pick yourself up and not look at the results and just focus on yourself, and like what goes through your mind when you're not where you thought you'd be at a particular point?
Well, it's quite funny because I think from the outside it looked like I was like focused and everything and thought I could still win it, and then had this like big surge at the end. But honestly, when I went the wrong way and then I was quite far back and then I tried to make up the time, then I almost gave up at one point. Like I was thinking, I'm struggling now. Like I've made up some time and I'm in like third or fourth. I can't remember where, but then the momentum stopped and then I was just stuck there. And then I could not I was just really struggling to push on and like close the gap to the guys in the front. So then I was thinking like, maybe this is just as good as it gets. But then the good thing is it's a long race, so you can actually just relax. So I was only still halfway at that point, and then I thought, no, there's still time for this to change. So I actually just tried to relax a little bit and just, try and enjoy the trail. Like I ran with someone else for quite a lot of the way, and then just focused on getting lots of fluids in, and just thought, no, I don't need to like be pushing this whole thing right now all the way to the end. I can just let the body settle a little bit, gather some like energy, and then push when things feel good again, and just be patient. And then actually people started coming back and I wasn't pushing more. And then suddenly I was like catching people without having to try harder. And then I thought, okay, this is going well. Then once I got in top 3 again, I was like, yeah, this is good. And then suddenly something just changed. And then it was like, right, now I can push. Like I feel good. I know there's guys like just in front. And then once you start catching people, when I caught Jacques, and then when I saw Kane as well, I felt bad seeing Kane, I'll be honest. I was like, I kind of, I want Kane to win. And I wanted him to go with me as well, and then maybe we could run in together and it would be really good. But then he was struggling quite a lot, and I thought, no, okay, I just got to go now. So it does push you a lot. Like
A race is a race, I guess.
I know, and I felt really like competitive and strong in that last part, because normally for me, like the rocky section would be the worst part, and I thought I need to go into this with a few minutes lead so I can relax. And I just caught Kane before there. So then I was like, no, I have to run this really strong. It has to be the best.
Honestly, I did hate you this much when you caught Kane.
Yeah, that's okay.
We all thought
that.
like, yeah, Kane is gonna finally.
Yeah, I hated myself a bit as well at that point. It's like, oh no. But then the thing is, I hope Kane would have come second, but then Jacques caught him in the end. So if I like stayed with Kane and then, whatever, like you just have to go for it. And I'd hope that he would hang on and maybe go with me, and then we'd have like a really close race at the end, and that would have been fine. But he was just, I think he was done by that point. Like he was really struggling, so he had cramps, unfortunately. But yeah, that's racing.
Yeah, and I mean, you've had a long career and a long journey in the sport, and if you kind of reflect back, what kind of stands out for you as kind of those most fulfilling moments, those key moments, I guess, in your road and your trail running? Like, is there a top 5 or a top 3, that you look back and you're just like, those are the moments?
That's a good question. I mean, I think some of the races I've had at Sierras and Al, there's been 1 or 2 times where I've been very close to Killian and like pushed him a bit in the middle stages, and then been quite close at the end. And I think that, they were real highlights. Like I finished second a few times there and felt like I ran really well and just, gave it everything on the day, and was just a little bit short of winning. But it was okay because I felt like I got everything out of myself, like for sure. And then one of the years at OCC, the first year I did that, I had a really good race with John Albon. And again, like I felt I got everything out of myself and we ran really strongly. And I came up a little bit short again. I came second. It was annoying. I took a wrong turn in that race too while I was in the lead. And then I lost the lead by a few minutes, and I got back in the lead, and we just had this really tough fight like the whole way. Yeah. So that was one of the best races I've ever had. I enjoyed that a lot. And then the Commonwealth Games as well, like on the road, for sure, that was a really good highlight. And like, I don't really class myself as a road runner, but I thought I would do a few years of sort of giving it a go. So that race was
I can imagine,
unexpected.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely.
Surely this is an ad for a sports watch company to sponsor this man with a watch that has proper GPX.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
top of the range GPX systems.
Yeah, well, the thing is, they do work in some races, but in the UTMB race, like I knew which way the race was, but the thing was, they changed sometimes little bits on the day, and I didn't see a marker. So when I didn't see the marker, then I thought, oh, okay, yeah, I shouldn't turn this way. I turned this way in training because I knew that was the right way, but looking down that trail now, there's no marker, so I should just continue. And it's just little things like that. When you're tired, you make bad decisions.
Yeah, when you're so focused.
Yeah,
race as well.
and you don't really have time to hang around and decide, so you just tend to like think, okay, I've just got to commit to this route, and most of the time you're right, but then sometimes
that happens.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And if you take a look back, was there kind of a moment that you first kind of fell in love with running? Was there a spark, or was it kind of like this is just something you've always done?
No, I definitely fell in love with it pretty early. I mean, I joined an athletics club when I was maybe 11 or 12, and I was probably 11 actually, and I did some running there and various things. I mean, to be honest, I didn't enjoy it that much in the club because it was all kind of track and I was rubbish at it. But I did enjoy like the longer distances there. And then my school had like a 2K fun run one year, I think when I was 12.
Yeah.
And I decided to like train for it a little bit. So I went out for like 2 training runs. And then I did this just to see if I could actually run 2 kilometers without stopping.
Yeah.
And then I did the race and then I won it. And I had a close race with someone and then just won at the end. And I was like, wow, that was a lot of fun. You know?
Yeah.
And then at that point, it was starting to just go well at the athletics club too. Like I realized I was okay at longer distances. So I did a few like 1500 meter races on the track and they went well too. So all that was happening when I was like 12. And then I thought, no, this is brilliant. And then after that, I got sucked into it and did cross country season in the winter, then like some track in the summer, and then moved on to more like kind of hill running, mountain running stuff.
Sure. And at that stage, obviously, you were doing sort of like local, like mountain races. Were those kind of trail races, or were those kind of more just like hilly, sort of cross country type of races?
Well, when I started, like trail running wasn't really a thing, or at least not in the UK.
Yeah.
Trail running in the UK was what they called a flat hill race, like a hill race with no hill in it is a trail race. But that's changed now. So trail running is more like running over actual mountains. Yeah. So in Scotland, where I grew up, there was like hill running, which is a bit like fell running. Yeah. So sometimes you're not even on a trail or anything, but they tend to be very steep, like technical races. And at that age, they're all very short. Like the furthest you can run is about 6-7K on those trails. So I did quite a lot of them, and I did some internationals as well when I was like 16. But they always had like a UK international that I did from when I was like 12, 13 onwards. Yeah. And it was really fun. Be like a really short race, just up and down a mountain in the pouring rain somewhere.
Sure.
It is the UK.
Isn't
that always like that?
Yeah, no, it's always like that, windy, cold, but I really loved it. And that's where like running on an actual hill, I enjoyed that so much more. Like I like that feeling of just racing downhill, like flat out. When I was younger, I used to be really good at downhill. Not so good at it now, but back then I used to just be fearless and I could just run straight down a mountain and always catch people, and there's nothing else like that. Like cross country was okay, but it didn't have the same kind of feeling. Yeah. So,
and you did a lot in your kind of before you were 20. You kind of represented Scotland and Great Britain. And was this at age group, or was this like senior running?
A bit of both. I mean, it was age group. For the UK for under 20, but then I was representing Scotland as a senior quite often from like 18, and then I had some good races when I was 18 as well, like against the seniors. I'd quite often beat like the GB like guys in some of those races too, but I was too young to represent GB as like a senior until I think it was 19 or 20, and then from then on, I was in that team. But yeah, I did quite a lot when I was young. I really enjoyed racing like every weekend. So I do something most weekends. Whereas now it's like, you just can't do that when you run longer distances.
Yeah. And what is the feeling at that stage between kind of the road and the sort of hill mountain kind of stuff? Was it just like you enjoyed both and you just whatever, as you say, like whatever that was on that weekend, or was there something that drew you to one or the other?
At that point, I only did off-road. So I'd do 2 races a year on road, like local. It was 2 10Ks, one in winter and one in spring, and I would do those. but I
Yeah.
would never, almost not a step of road
Okay.
otherwise. I might do like one road run a week,
Sure.
maybe. Because where I lived, there were just really nice trails everywhere.
Yeah.
So I only really ran on trails. Like even when I did interval sessions, I didn't really understand doing intervals on the road because I just grew up running on trails. So
Sure.
then there was a lot of like flat, foresty, kind of tree rootey single
Yeah.
trails. So I'd just go and run on them and even do like my interval sessions there because I didn't have like a GPS watch or anything. I didn't know about trying to
This
run.
is
is
the
where it
theme.
started.
Yeah, this is where
This
it
is where it
started.
started.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know about like how fast I should be running. So I just ran hard on those trails and that worked. But then, I ultimately did go to the road to try and get a bit faster because I was quite strong, but I wasn't very fast at all before I was 20. I was terrible at like 5Ks, 10Ks.
Yeah. And how did that transition happen to the road? Was it kind of, as you say, just like for practice and then you were like, hey, I'm quite good at this? Or was it kind of a conscious kind of effort in order to improve your running?
Definitely a conscious effort. I mean, I'd done a race, like a longish road race, like a 16-mile race. No, 16K, sorry. Like a 10-mile race in the UK when I was 16. And then I had quite a good time. Like I ran quite a fast time and stuff. And like I knew like, okay, I'm okay at running on the road. But I'd never really trained on the road properly until I started being coached when I was 20. I met a coach and he was like saying, yeah, you're not fast enough, basically. You should be running a few minutes quicker for 10K if you actually want to be good.
Yeah.
And then he set me like proper interval sessions, running on the road, like aiming for certain times, and also set up like a season of over the winter doing road races, doing like a few 5Ks and a few 10Ks, and then a half marathon, and then just like seeing that progress was really good. I started off running like, I don't know what I would normally do, say 32 to 33 minutes for 10K, and then I got that down to 30,
Sure.
in 1 year really. Or maybe 2 years, I can't remember, but I took big chunks off that. And then I immediately noticed the difference.
Yeah.
Like I was running so much faster and I was running better uphill and just everything was kind of coming together off of that.
Sure.
So then after that, I did always try and do like a certain amount of speed training on road each year.
Sure. And what is the kind of the sort of road or running and trail running culture like in Scotland, and how is it kind of like developed? I mean, is it still where it was kind of when you started, or is there kind of a bit more of a development now?
Yeah, I mean, it has moved on a lot. I would say especially the last like 5 to 8 years, because there was some really good runners like the Hawkins brothers, Callum and Derek Hawkins, are like amazing runners from Scotland, and their dad is like a really prominent coach also. So Callum ended up running like 60:01 for half marathon and like 2:08 for marathon, and that really pushed things on. So a lot of people believed like that they could also run that, and that's definitely helped push on like standards on the road in the UK, but also in Scotland. So when I started, like I could win quite a lot of races, even like the national cross country. Like 1 year I came second at it when I was like 20. I didn't even really do much speed training. I was quite slow, but I was very close. Whereas now, like there's a lot more guys who are like really, really strong. I'd say on the hill running scene, it's changed in that like more young people are doing it. So when I did it, it was like, yeah, I was like the youngest by a long. There weren't so many guys even in the 30s doing it. It was quite often like much older guys and fewer women. Whereas now, like I'd say there's more women running, younger people running those races, and also running longer distances. There's just more variety. Like the trail running is increased in popularity, like hill running as well, and road running too. Like everything's kind of improving, and maybe some more runners coming from the road onto the trails as well.
Yeah.
I'd say,
Yeah.
So.
And obviously you've had like quite a long career, have there been kind of any significant kind of challenges or like moments where, like, yeah, I've been pretty challenging, or you've almost like you've had enough, or have there been any of those kind of times?
To be fair, there have been a few times. I mean, I've had like 2 bad injuries. They didn't have any like effect on my motivation. They were just derailed me for like a short time. I had like 2 times where I couldn't run for a month. I mean, it's not that bad in the grand scheme of things in like 20 years of running.
Yeah.
But that was okay. But it was more like there was 1 year, I think it was 2019, where I'd just been doing like the same races for a while and traveling a lot. And then I just got a bit tired. And I was like, I've been doing this a long time. And I obviously, now I run with Adidas Terrex, but before then I was just running on my own. So every trip I did, I was organizing myself. I was staying in my own, sometimes 8 weeks, like staying by myself in some small, tiny apartment somewhere, like just training. And it was okay. But I just needed to change things up, like do some different races or be around some different people. But then obviously like COVID happened just after that in 2020.
Yeah.
And then that was the break that I think I needed, like
Sure.
mentally from racing and everything and traveling. Then after that, it was like desperate to do it again. So
Yeah, it shows how important that kind of taking a break is,
yeah.
regularly.
Yeah, and to be honest, this year I had a little bit of that just after UTMB because I just like doing those races. It's like the fourth time I've been in Chamonix doing that now in 4 years, and just thought like, I'm kind of done with UTMB and that whole like aiming for this one race and it being the same course as like the previous year, and just looking for something a little bit different. So then coming back to Otter and coming here again just like really refreshes things because the races are really fun. Like you can just enjoy that race and it doesn't have the same like pressure as some of those ones. Like UTMB on the start line, you're like looking there and there's as many photographers as there are runners.
Yeah,
And you're just
sure.
thinking like, what?
Yeah.
I think I want to jump on that, Robbie, if you just can expand a little bit for me. Like, Dean and I attended like separate events last week on mental health and how important it is to check up on runners, because we try to use running as like our to release the stress, etc. But sometimes it's just not enough, and you being a pro, I'm sure the pressure is even worse. I can go back to my job and still have my 9 to 5 if the running doesn't work. But how do you, as a pro, try and keep that mental strength going and trying not to get injured, because this is like your bread and butter?
Yeah, it is quite tough. I mean, it was definitely tougher, I think, before having a team supporting me. So when my income was just purely from race winnings, and then if I had like an injury that was a few weeks long and then I had to miss races and not get prize money, and then like that's your income, that's everything, that's your like the life that you've built up. And it is quite dangerous to have everything balancing on that when it can just disappear, like if you have an injury. So before it was, I'd say, worse. And then I think since then I've tried to diversify things a little bit and have other hobbies outside of running and a lot of friends outside of running, and also like doing coaching I think is quite good, because now I'm at the stage where like I'm happy when I run well, but it's not the end of the world now. Like having been in it so long, I've tried to like take away the need for necessarily to have like very good results to make me happy. It's kind of, when it goes well it's great, but I'm also just happy to be places like this and doing my best. And if it doesn't go well, then I'm not going to lose sleep over it and kind of go into a cycle of depression because of my race results. It's just try and look at other things, like coach, help other people with their journeys, and then also just sometimes getting away from it and seeing family and friends too who know nothing about the sport and don't care at all, and just hanging out with them, going home. Like for me, going back to Scotland as well, like nobody knows anything, nobody cares there. It's just there's no, like, trail running is a sport, but where I live there's no one really doing it, so I can just go there and get away from it all. And I mean, one day I'll obviously retire and have to do something a bit different, but at the moment it's quite nice to have that, like, and the support of the team's good too. Like that really does help, because there's always like people have gone through a lot of different things on the team, and then there's always someone to talk to about it. And it's such a big team with so much experience that there's always someone who can help and you can talk to about things. So
do you get when you go back home, people asking like, what do you do for work? And they just, you try and explain and they just don't get it?
Yeah. It was funny because in Europe, if someone asks you what you do and you say you run, it's like, oh yeah, cool. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, loads of people do that.
Yeah.
But in Scotland, just blows people's mind. So it's easier just to say you're a coach.
Yeah.
And then they'll assume you're like a football coach or something. Like, oh yeah, football coach.
Which team?
Yeah.
Loads of people,
For Glasgow.
yeah. Rangers or Celtic. But obviously I'm not, working with football, but it's just so normal to be like a sports coach.
Yeah.
Like that's an okay job, or a personal trainer.
Yeah.
Like if you said you're a personal trainer, everyone would be like, oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That's cool. It's
Yeah.
a really cool job. If you say you're a runner, then nah.
And, how do you kind of find the road and the trail kind of complement each other, and how do you find that sort of transitioning between distances? I know you did Otter and then you came here and you did Cape Town Marathon. So is it like trails your main focus and the road is kind of just complementing that, or is there a switch between at some points during the year?
I mean, trail's always the main focus,
Yeah.
like 100%, but there are certain road races that I really enjoy. And I think like Two Oceans Marathon, for example.
Yeah.
I really like that. And then when I was training for like London Marathon, I did quite a few races in London Marathon, and I really loved that. So that was like a proper focus. But for me, I find that it just improves my trail running performance. Like it doesn't seem logical, but like some of the best races I've had have been off of marathon blocks, and then had like a few weeks recovery, getting back onto the trails, like just doing some easy runs on mountains, and then racing again, and then just feeling like really, really fit and having this like big engine that you get from doing those sessions. I just find it much easier to get efficient at running, like training hard on the road. But I still, even when I'm training on the road, I still do most of my running on trails. I still do all the easy runs on trails, just like not quite like Table Mountain trails, a little bit
More
easier.
like Scotland trails.
Yeah, you can get running like that in Scotland too, but I would generally choose like gravel paths,
Yeah.
you know, maybe some smooth dirt paths and softer ground, not anything too technical. Like I can still run efficiently on it. That would be most of the running, and then I do like some of the workouts on road. But I just find it just helps my running economy, and I don't know, like it's strange because like even going from I've done some like marathon sessions this year because I wanted to do Cape Town Marathon to get a qualifier for Two Oceans. But then going back to like the trails after, and I feel good. Like even on these trails, it's something about just having that extra spring in the step from the road that almost helps me running over like rocks and things. But you do have to train on technical terrain a lot to be good at it. So it's like there's a balance there. I think it's just trying to get it right. Because last year I came out like 2 months before UTCT, and I did Otter, and I felt really good at Otter, and like I was running well in the technical terrain. Then I trained here for like 2 months, and then when I got to UTCT, I just felt like I'd lost it. I don't know whether I trained too much on the trails and not enough on the road, or whether I just overdid something, but I just felt like really flat, and like I just had no like technical ability at all. So I was thinking, something needs to be different this year. So
And then you went on to win the
Yeah, I'm
race.
just thinking like what
I did.
Yeah.
But I won the race in the last like hour, really. Like I was struggling a lot in the race, and then that climb up to Blockhouse, like I felt really strong, and then from there to the end was good. So like that's what won it. But the year before, like from the start, I felt really good, and I'd like, you know, I pushed it right from the start, and I was way faster the previous year, especially over the first like 40K.
Yeah.
And then I died a bit at the end.
It just sounds hard.
Yeah.
It's always hard. That's the thing. You forget how hard these races are. You're like, oh, I do it for fun, and then you're like,
Yeah, you come
20K
out here
in,
for fun and then
sweating under the sun and just
So just going back to that, I mean, looking back, as you said, like the first year, you know, you felt strong. Last year, you struggled a bit. Have you kind of analyzed that and worked out like what's needed this year? Or is this year you're not going into it with that sort of competitive, I'm going to win this race?
I think it was a mental, like I think it was partly the training, like looking back on it, because I was talking to my coach about it, and we did a lot of, sometimes I do like double run days, you know, and do like 2 easy runs. Sometimes I do 1 longer easy run. And I did a lot of easy runs, but then like 1 longer easy run per day. But I was running all the time on like trails here, and every run just turned out to be like hilly, like really hilly, a little bit technical. There wasn't a big enough difference between like the easy days and the hard days, and like the big elevation days and the flat days, because there were no flat days. And then because there were no flat days, I was trying to like not make the hilly days too hilly. So everything just became this like same, going out for like 90 minutes and doing like 600 meters and at like 5 minutes per K. And it was always a little bit too hard for an easy day, a little bit too hilly, but then not hilly enough to get like a good hill workout. So then by the time I realized that, it was too close to the race.
Yeah.
We tried to change things, and I got through it, but also mentally, last year I was trying to qualify for the UTMB final, and I'd left it too late. And then I was planning to do a 50K like 9 days after UTCT.
Sure.
So I flew to Thailand. I was planning to do UTCT 55, then fly out to Thailand and do another 55K. So it was horrible. So when I started the race, I had this in my mind the whole way. I was like, I have to run 55K again in 9 days. So I couldn't push. Like I didn't want to push.
Yeah.
But then I don't know, I hated it. I hated that feeling. So this year, just like, I'm not doing anything else. This is the last race, and I can just finish, empty the tank completely.
Yeah.
So I think that was another reason it didn't go well, was just like having that mental just thing at the back of my head.
It's insane.
You have to do this again in 9 days.
Yeah.
I mean, that's insane. I mean, how do you even? I mean, it's a completely different environment. I mean, Thailand and South Africa. It's like,
Yeah.
how do you even train for something like that?
Yeah,
It's like with such a short space of time.
I know. I mean, the plan was to just train well, get really fit, do this race, try and just get through it without pushing too hard, and then just finish Thailand, because I just had to be top 10 in Thailand to get qualified. But then, as it turned out, I got sick in Thailand and I couldn't race.
Oh,
So
wow.
it's like,
So, yeah, there we go. Lesson.
yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It was stupid. I didn't even want to go. Like, I knew it was a stupid idea. But
Yeah.
then I thought, well, let's just try it. And then, sure enough, got sick. And then it's like, yeah, okay, that was a stupid idea.
And
never mind.
is this sort of marathon distance your kind of favorite distance? I mean, obviously, like say, like between the 35 and the 50, is that kind of your sweet spot?
I really love that distance. Yeah, I really like races, say between 2.5 and like 5.5 hours, because I can push quite hard, and I feel like I can push hard in those races, but still have like the legs to run strongly to the end. Whereas like I've done a few races around 7 hours, and then I don't know, just start to. I think it's different because every year more you've been in the sport, like you maybe have slightly better endurance. So now I think I'm quite keen to try out maybe a 7-hour race again and see how it is. But it just becomes, it's just very different. I like pushing races, and I don't like going into a race and just feeling like I'm just trying to finish it. And you have to do that. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not a race to do 100K, like for sure it is, but it's just so different to what I'm used to. Like I'm used to doing, when I was a kid, doing like 3K races where you start flat out and just try and hang on to the end. And even in a 50K, there's still a little bit of that feeling of like, you know, starting out and it's only a few hours, you know, you can definitely hang on and it's all good. But when you do like 100K that's taking you 10 hours, it's just so different. And I just haven't quite like tapped into that mental strength and also like just pacing myself. So I think I'm going to try a longer race like next year, but one that's a bit more runnable rather than going to do, I've done a few like, 80Ks that have had a bit more elevation gain and it's been fun and stuff, but I want to do ones that are a bit flatter and just think like maybe it's a bit easier to, just like keep the pace going and a flatter trail race rather than doing like, you know, UTMB type thing.
Yeah. And it's quite interesting that you say, you know, when you say longer race, you're talking hours rather than kilometers. So is that kind of like the kind of key difference for you? It's just it's an hourly thing rather than looking at it like, oh, it's a 100K race or it's, you know, it's just,
Comrades is like,
It's like,
Comrades your longest run?
Yeah, it's like 90K or 88K.
It's far.
It's quite far.
Counting in hours.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel that far because you're running it fast. It just goes, like the distance just goes by really quickly compared to doing like Otter, for example, which is like some of the slowest 40K you'll ever run.
Yeah.
You know, it takes a lot.
Climbing stairs, like
Yeah.
crossing rivers.
It's so slow.
Imagine you've had a hectic 2024. You've run a lot of races, you've put in a lot of effort. Now, cast your mind over to the clear waters of Zanzibar. Beyond white sand beaches, a dial sails across the horizon, and there you are, chilling in your hammock with your well-deserved rest for a hard-earned 2024. Want to make that happen? Check out Luggage Warehouse's Black Friday competition. One lucky shopper will win a return ticket to Zanzibar worth 9,000 Rand. Or you can trade it in for 4,500 Rand in cash, which you can use towards your race entries, your nutrition, or your gear for next year's running. Any purchase, big or small, gets you in the draw, and it's easy to enter. Just shop at luggagewarehouse.co.za or in their Cape Town and Joburg stores during Black Friday week. And if you want a bonus entry, sign up for Luggage Warehouse's newsletter and you'll get one when you make your purchase. Head over to luggagewarehouse.co.za/Zanzibar for the details. T's and C's apply. You know, we chatted a bit about it, but we chatted about the Commonwealth Games, and you've also obviously won medals at European Championships and World Championships. What is it that draws you to that kind of like competing on a national level for your country or for Great Britain? And how does that kind of differ from, you know, the traditional kind of trail races?
It's very different. I mean, I got into that when I was younger because that was like the main opportunity. Like as a junior, they were the only races you could really do that were of any level. Because there was not really, I couldn't enter like races, you know, senior races because I was too young. So I kind of got into that, and I did enjoy it because it's very competitive, and you do get to race against the best people and like see where you are. And the races are also quite fast, like especially like the European and world like mountain running champs. Like it is fast running, so it does overlap quite well with the road in the mountains. But don't know. I kind of drifted away from it now because, like I think it is really good to a point to like become a very good runner, but then it can be a bit controlling and a bit limiting on what else you do.
Yeah.
So like you have to just do that.
Yeah.
And then maybe one or two other races, but they always clash. And those race distances are quite short normally, or at least they used to be when I did them. Now you can do like a longer distance option, but yeah, it was quite tricky to train for everything. So I kind of moved away from that. But like the Commonwealth Games was different because it was just exciting to do something totally different like that and be in like a major kind of championships.
Yeah.
And they had the the 2014 Commonwealth Games was in Glasgow. I thought about trying to qualify for it, and then I didn't qualify. Well, I didn't try because I didn't want to run a marathon at that stage. It was too early, and I don't know, I had other things on the go. But then I thought like, I kind of missed out a really good opportunity. So then when it was in Gold Coast, I thought, well, yeah, Australia sounds a lot better than Glasgow. So I really want to do it. And then the qualifying time wasn't too bad either. It was like within reach, and then I got it. So then it was just like, absolutely do that. But now I don't know if I'd want to go back into that sort of thing. Like it is really fun.
Yeah.
But it's just a whole new level of like pressure, expectation, and ultimately it's, and I don't know, like you have to wonder like why you're doing, I don't do these things for other people and for like federations and for random people that you don't know, like to keep them happy. Like I just do it because I want to go and do a race.
Yeah.
So I don't like people I don't know telling me that I should be doing something and like, oh, you have to run in this team and do that championship. And then you're like, okay. And then they say, oh no, but you can't do that. You can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do any of the races you want to do. You just have to do ours. And then you have to pay for your flight too. And you're like, you know what? Nah, you know, I just want to do fun things, and it's good to a point, but then you kind of grow out of it eventually.
Yeah. And do you find when you say to people like, oh, you've come second at UTMB, and then you're like, oh, I won a medal at the Commonwealth Games, and people are like, that's the one that they kind of like, oh yes, you won a medal at the Commonwealth Games. Like,
well, at home, that was the thing that actually counted. Even with my family, that's the only one that they can really see any value in. A lot of the, but I don't mind, it doesn't bother me.
And does your approach to training and race strategy change? So this year, you've done, you've had a top 10 finish at OCC. You've won the Ultra-Trail, you won Otter. Is there a change, or is it like over the last 20 years you've kind of honed in on a race strategy and it's a little bit of tweaks here and there that matters?
No, it's definitely changed, I'd say. Like before, it always used to be about like getting out hard and like racing right from the gun and just trying to burn people off early and things. Whereas now I feel like it's changed in that I feel like stronger at the end of races compared to what I used to.
Yeah.
Like I always find in the last like third of a race, I normally feel pretty good, or at least the last quarter. And that's something that's changed in the last years, because like I never used to be. It used to be like I could hang on till a certain amount of time and then I knew I was going to lose time. So I had to make sure I was like going well early on, whereas now I can afford to leave it a little bit later and just relax into races, and that normally works. But yeah, part of me still like, I don't know, maybe I should change that strategy again. So it'll probably change.
Yeah.
But there's just, you have to have many ways of like being able to adapt to any situation as well. So it depends. If you know you're going to win a race, then it's easy to run it the way you want. But if you're racing guys who are really strong and trying out different tactics, you have to be adaptable and kind of just see how it plays out.
Yeah. And you had a DNF at Zagama this year. What happened there? What lessons did you kind of learn from that?
Yeah, that was a pretty bad one. I mean, it was quite strange because like I ran really well in April when I was feeling like my fittest. I did a race in the Lake District and I felt really, really good. And then things were like on track. And then something just happened like 2 weeks after. I just was fatigued. And then I was tired like consistently for a while. And then I kind of backed off the training a little bit, couldn't do any intervals. And then I had like headaches and stuff for a while. And then I just kind of tried to brush it aside. And then I was like, I'm going to go and do Zagama.
Yeah.
And then I did like...
Sounds about right.
Yeah, well, I went to the doctor and I got like a blood test. I thought it might have been low iron or something like that. But then it all came back fine for like iron and, just other markers like that. So then I thought, yeah, it's probably going to be okay. And then I I tried to do like an uphill tempo and it just didn't, like something just wasn't right, but I couldn't quite put my finger on it. So I just convinced myself that it would be fine if I like blocked it all out of my mind and just went and did the race, because I really wanted to do the race. and I'd organized to go, and everything was like lined up. And I had trained really well for a lot of months. It was just this one like dip the 2 weeks before. And then I got like, I did the first K and felt fine. And then once we started climbing, it just went backwards and backwards. And then I got halfway and was like dizzy and just horrific. Like couldn't run uphill, couldn't run downhill.
Jeez.
And then I was like, this is actually quite dangerous now. I end up like hitting my head on a rock or something. So I thought, nah, I'm just going to call it and just walk it in. And then basically I never got another test done, but like I'd had Lyme disease like a few years ago from a tick bite. Like it's quite common in Scotland. And then basically I was talking to my coach and he was saying like the symptoms seem exactly the same. Like you got headaches, like fatigue, just running badly, all this stuff. So then I took the medication for Lyme disease, and then 3 days later I was fine.
Oh wow.
And then I went out and did like a tempo run, and I was like, oh, it's just like I've got my body back again. It's so weird. It's like having the brakes on the whole time. Like you just can't push. Like trying to run under 4 minutes for a K was like, couldn't do it.
Sure.
And I'd be like dizzy if I tried to. And then every afternoon I was like lying down for like 3-4 hours. And then I was like, that's not normal. And then after I took the medication, it was unbelievable. Like in the afternoons, I was like, right, what am I going to do? I've got all this energy. I can like work now. I can do all these things. I can go out for a walk. Whereas it's just weird. Like it just came on, like I didn't really notice it coming on. And then suddenly it was just in this place. So I don't know, like I definitely learned if there's something wrong, you have to work it out. And like just take notice. Because I did a race 2 weeks before Zagama, and it was horrific. It was like the guys I normally run with, I was finishing, it was a 30-minute race, and I was 3 or 4 minutes behind them. But I just put it down to like, maybe I was just sick or something. But I should have actually listened and been like, no, don't go to Zagama. It's going to be a really stupid idea. But then just kind of said it would be fine. And
I think I want to piggyback on that. I mean, we had a conversation with Macy and some other runners, the pros. You know, they take a very scientific approach in their nutrition, their training, and stuff like that. Would you say that you also have a similar approach to your run, sleep?
Like I get the scientific approach, but like it's not lab conditions. Like when you're out running on a trail, you can't control all the factors that you need to like if you're going to try and take exact data on all these really specific points that you're trying to train for, then you need to train in an environment like that. Like for example, the Ingebrigtsens do loads of that, like, you know, lactate testing and training in very specific zones, but they're running on the treadmill all the time and testing lactate and stuff. Like you're going to run on a trail. There's so many factors there. I prefer to just try and train the body to run by feel and try and achieve. I mean, running is running at the end. Like you can overcomplicate it. Like for sure, you have to train the right zones. You have to run hard. You have to run easy and do this. But you have to also learn how it feels to do it instead of relying on things that maybe, you know, even like just how accurately you can test that data. Like if it's out by 10% and then you need to be in a specific zone, there's just so many things there that don't line up and makes it overly complicated. And I think you have to train yourself to like feel how things work rather than rely on like technology to tell you. So I think that's where we differ in our approaches. But sometimes it is right. I don't know.
Interesting. I mean, I'm quite more the sciencey side. I like to measure how many carbs I'm taking per hour, and I've got my watch telling me it's electrolytes time, it's this time, it's that time. I mean, when the race comes, like sometimes most of that just goes away, right? Because you're just in the pain cave. That's interesting that you say that.
The carbs per hour and stuff, like it is easier to measure that if compared to like looking at heart rate data and lactate and like training zones. So like when it comes to nutrition, you just need a certain amount of carbs. But even in the race, like it varies so much, like depending on conditions, temperature, like how hard you're pushing. Because when I did Cape Town Road Marathon, like normally I fuel pretty hard in trail races. Like I take a lot, I don't exactly count it, but it's often around 100 grams of carbs an hour. But I took a lot of carbs with me, but I was like pacing and running a bit slower in the first half because I was pacing someone, and then I tried fueling like normal, and I was like, oh, I don't feel good. My stomach is so bad. And then I was thinking about it, I'm like, it's because I normally run a lot harder, so I'll probably use that energy like, you know, quicker, or I don't know, for some reason it was just harder to fuel like going at a slower pace, like take on so much. body just didn't need it. It was like, no, don't give me anymore.
Interesting.
And then I picked it up in the second half, and then I was like, oh yeah, now I need it.
Yeah.
And then I was taking it, and it was just, everything was fine. It's just something wasn't quite right, but I don't know.
Yeah, my coach believes on running on feel.
Mm.
It's like,
Yeah.
I want the science. Give me the.
Well, my body doesn't listen to me when I'm like, hey, can we talk? And it's like, no, we're not talking now. How do you kind of train that? Is it just like a matter of experience and just years of, just going out there, as you say, and like just doing it over a number of years?
Maybe just making loads of mistakes. But
Yeah.
some people are really good at that and others aren't. I mean, I coach people who say like, I can't run any slower than like 4:15 per K. It's impossible. My body just, it feels easy and stuff. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. Like, I know that it doesn't feel easy because I'm looking at you running it and it doesn't look easy.
Yeah.
So it's just trying to, I think you do have to make mistakes and like push a bit too hard, work out some things, but just doing a variety of training helps you know, like when you run up a mountain 100 times, then you know like how hard is hard, how easy is easy, like, and it's also really simple. Like if you can talk to someone and you're running up a mountain, it's easy. If you can't talk, then it's quite hard.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, like some of your athletes, how do you like get them to, because I feel like the role of a coach is just stop the athlete from doing stupid things.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do as athletes, it's like your coach is just to guide you, but you'll always have that one athlete that just doesn't listen to you. But whatever they do works. Because we've got a guy in our coaching program, he says, well, coaching is a guide, right? And then he does whatever he does, and it's just brilliant.
Yeah, it works. It depends what it is. Like obviously, for sure, you could run every run too hard and get away with it for like a while, maybe even a year. But then eventually your body will just start to break down. Like if you're not recovering at the same rate that you're damaging it, then you're getting just gradually more and more injured. Like you have to have time to recover. You have to like fuel properly. And and also you just don't get the same from the workouts. So if I did all my easy runs at like 3:45 per K, then when it comes to doing the hard days, I just wouldn't get anything out of them the same. So then it's like, is it worth it? And that's the same with the guy I was telling you about. Like, he ran his easy runs too fast. Then it would come to the hard workout day and it wouldn't be fast enough. And I'd say like, what happened? Like it's only a few seconds faster than your easy run. Like you should be going so much faster. Like if you're running easy that day, then why is that only the same pace?
Yeah.
Like you should be going so much faster.
Sure.
And then you kind of realize, oh yeah, and then he was really tired because you're like, you've knackered yourself. And also getting people to just run off road. But it's just, I don't know, smart watches and Strava. I blame Strava. Like if you look at the number of people in the UK, so everyone trains by miles in the UK. I use kilometers. And everyone's easy run pace is 7 minutes per mile. Exactly 7 minutes per mile. It's like, is it?
Yeah, that's
interesting.
That seems high.
Yeah, it is. But it's just if they feel like if it's 7:30, it doesn't look good on Strava. Or if it's 8 minutes a mile, it doesn't look good. So it has to be 7:00, and that's like, because that's what the pros do. So then, it's good for them too. But.
Strava and social media. And we chatted a bit about UTMB. You've had 4 top 10 finishes at OCC. What kind of keeps you going back? And as you kind of said, like, you said maybe it's over now. Like, are you done?
I think so. Like I go back. I do enjoy it. I love racing the best guys in the world. And that race definitely has them. But something about the race, I just find it a bit too much now. It's a bit like, okay, you have to go to some far off country to get a qualifier the year before.
Yeah.
So like this year, for example, I haven't done a qualifier because I don't know, I was one behind. Then I did one in the spring that qualified me for this year, but I'm still one behind. I didn't want to do a 55k at Eiger like not long before OCC and Sierra Zanal, so I did the short one, which wasn't a qualifier. Then now I would have to miss the trip to Cape Town to get a qualifier somewhere else, and it's just like, and then I want to do one in February that would qualify me, but it'll only qualify me for 2026.
Oh wow, yeah.
So then I just thought, you know what? Nah, I'm just going to choose the races I want to do. It is a good event, but it's just kind of got a bit too intense now, and I don't know. I don't feel it's so much for the runners anymore. It's more for like just the business.
Yeah.
And,
Imagine us Africans. We only have one race.
Yeah, one race to qualify, which is and then you have to travel there.
Yeah.
Which is insane, and what it costs as well to stay in Chamonix.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't for having a sponsor, I wouldn't go anywhere near it.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because I can't afford to spend that amount of money in Chamonix at that time of year, trying to stay there, and then paying the entry fee, which is like
it's
probably
ridiculous.
6,000 rand or something to enter OCC. Like it's roughly that. And
And what is kind of, I mean, other than UTMB, but like racing in Europe versus racing, say, in Cape Town, like what are the kind of, obviously there are massive differences, but what are the kind of big differences in your kind of mind?
Not as fun.
Yeah.
The differences, I mean, the trails are very different.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. I mean, the trails in Europe, I'm not saying they're all smooth in Europe. There's really technical trails as well. You can do really gnarly stuff. But a lot of the races just tend to be on smoother, more runnable trails. That's the main difference as a runner. I'd say, like, the standard there, like, because it's been around longer, I'd say, like, there is a higher level there, like more depth in some ways. But here it's more... I know it's fun here. It hasn't like lost the community, like fun kind of trail running vibe that you get. Like in Scotland, it's quite similar to here too. Like it hasn't got really big yet. It's really fun. Like everyone's doing it, but there's just a lot of good support and it's a nice crowd of people. Whereas Europe, like it is really good. Like there's still parts of that, but it also is just like a bit overhyped. Like someone with a GoPro in your face a lot of the time.
Guess a note for the race. Mustn't put the GoPro in his face.
No, but it's okay. Like it's fine to do that, but it's just different there sometimes.
Yeah.
Like in Musa and I, I've been doing that race for like, the first year I did it was 2012, and it felt like a fairly low key race. You know, it's a big race, amazing field, but they really looked after the runners, and then we had a great time, and it wasn't so big. And now you go there, like they still look after us really well. It's all good, but there's just like so many media obligations. There's thousands of people everywhere on the course. Like it's just so intense now. There's like traffic. It's all a standstill. It's like helicopters and stuff. And you're like, whoa, like what happened? And it's good. The sport's growing loads, and that's a byproduct of that. And like things always change as they grow. But I think for here, it's just nice. Like it's fun. The races are good, well organized, relaxed. Like It's just hard courses here. They're really hard.
Yeah, I think Macy spoke about like how when he runs here, he feels like it's proper mountaineering because you come back, you've got scars, you've got bush carts, and it's like that was a good race.
Yeah.
But I think my question is, I mean, we're speaking about how big trail running is becoming, and we've seen like the Golden Trail, UTMB, and all the other stuff that is happening around the world. Do you see trail running as an Olympic sport like in the next couple of years?
I think that there'll always be resistance against it. I think like guys like a Golden Trail and UTMB will actually not want that because I think they feel that it takes away something from the sport. Because I remember before like them talking about it as a potential thing, and they said it would mean that the courses couldn't be as good because they'd have to like fit with Olympics, like where the cities are and everything. I'd say like the coverage now is so much better. When I first did a race that was filmed, it was insane. Like they basically left static cameras on the trail at different points.
Oh wow.
That was all they could do. And you ran past and they got footage in like 4 different points. That was as good as they could do then.
Yeah.
And that was like almost 15 years ago now.
Sure.
Whereas now, like what they can do with GoPros and drones and everything, like they can really have a great like kind of media coverage. But I still think that people won't want it to go that way just because it kind of loses a bit of its, I know, a bit of the soul. But yeah, it's a tricky one.
Evolution.
Yeah, because there's always more money in Olympic events, but there'll be, I just can't see it. I don't know.
Maybe it's the federations.
Yeah, it's not corrupt enough to be an Olympics yet.
And, you mentioned that Cape Town is fun, but obviously there is a serious element to you coming here, or is it kind of like this is the end of the year, if you come here, it's fun, and if you win, it's great, or is there kind of that serious element as well?
Oh, there's always a serious element.
Yeah,
it's a race.
Race is a race.
A race is a race, and that's what it's all about. But it's just fun.
Yeah.
Even though it is a race, it's really fun, and the thing I really love about running here as well is that there's just sections where it's just you on the trail alone. Yeah. And like Otter especially, Otter is just like that, but UTCT as well. Like when you do like Souther Peak and everything, and some of those sections, and even in Newlands on the contour where you're just in like thick jungle almost, running on rocks and stuff. There's not like millions of people everywhere and just cars like pulling up to see you because there aren't any roads that access it, and like running along the bouldery sections, you know, from Llandudno towards Souther Peak, it's really cool.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it's just nice and remote. Like you can just settle into it. You know, I love that. Yeah, it's quite different, but I really like that. And Otter especially, it's like running in the wilderness, just like,
Yeah.
it's so cool.
Otter's definitely an amazing in terms of that like isolated kind of terrain.
Isolation. And that's what it's like in Scotland too. Like you don't run through villages or anything in most of those hill races. It's just you on a mountain. Maybe the odd like deer. That's about it.
And, you know, obviously you're part of the Terrex team. How did that sort of come about? And you know, what is that like being part of a team in kind of such an individual sport?
So it came about because a friend of mine, Holly, like she was saying that they were still looking for a few more runners, and they were from the UK as well. Like they were kind of branching out into the UK, and the team when I joined was a lot smaller than it is now. So like they were expanding quite a lot in that 1 year. They signed a lot of people, and I'd had a really good season. So then I chatted to one of the bosses, and then I got signed up, and that was really cool. But then of course it was at the end of 2019, 2020 was a bit of a write off with all the COVID stuff. So then I was like, but after that, since then it's been brilliant. But it makes such a difference, like especially at the races is one thing, but like even just for training, like in the build up. So being here for like 8 weeks and then staying with Macy for a lot of time and Dan, like training together and just having that like company. Because before I'd come out here on my own, and it's okay, but staying for like 6 weeks, 8 weeks on your own is quite tough. Like it's a totally different thing. Like there's no social element whatsoever, not that fun. So yeah, that side of it's great. Like going to races with people who you're actually really good friends with and want to support is amazing. Like we genuinely do want each other to do well. It's not like the kind of fake team thing where you're like stabbing your friend in the back. Like we genuinely do really like each other and want each other to do well. So that's really nice, because if you have a good day, there's people to hang out with. If you have a bad day, there's people to help you as well. And it just makes it so fun. Like I never thought I'd be a team kind of person doing running, because it is a very individual sport, but I do really, really value that. And you just have such great memories, because you've shared like all those moments with good friends instead of just you on your own in some far off place. Like, yay, I won a race. And then sitting on the train home on your own. It's like different, like being there with a full team.
And do you think that's kind of the future model of the sport? Now that they've kind of, that we've all seen the success of it and how well they've kind of done it? Or do you think it's kind of, they've just worked really hard and got into quite a unique space?
I think that it is the future. Like definitely I see other teams now trying to do that, and just being in Chamonix this year compared to a few years ago where we were like the only team there, like fully. And then now like everyone's trying to get into that like same team sort of vibe, but it's very hard to build it up. Like it was done over a long time and quite carefully planned, and like it is pretty unique, I think, the Terrex team, like how big it is, and certainly how close people are. So it'll be interesting to see if other brands do that. Like what they don't tend to do is like hire someone for a year then drop them. They give quite long contracts and really invest in someone, and I think that's what makes the difference, because it's the same like core group of people that have been there for so long.
Yeah, I think that's what I found so interesting, is that they say like they invest in you, and it's not about, I mean, obviously it is about performance, but it's not solely focused on performance. As you say, like they're not going to drop you if you have like a bad year or you get injured or something like that.
Yeah,
and they invest really nice in your kind of in your person.
Yeah, that makes a big difference, because a lot of other brands, it's just year to year contracts, and you're always like panicking about having a good race and then maybe getting dropped. But no, it's nice to have that security, and then just to be around really good people. Like they're so nice to work with. So yeah.
And what advice would you give to someone wanting to kind of start trail running? Like what is the golden kind of nugget?
I think it's just trying to be patient with things. I mean, there's two sides to it. There's obviously like the training side and everything, and then the mental side, like two different things, but really just trying to be patient and ease into it, and not, because it's so easy to look at like 100Ks, 100 milers and think, yeah, that's what I want to be doing. But like, you just have to work your way up a little bit, because it takes quite a while. If you're coming from the road or like another sport where you have that like background and strength and endurance, then maybe you can step up a bit quicker. But if not, like it's best to start at the 20Ks and the 30Ks and then the marathons, and just slowly build up.
Should have told me that.
Yeah.
300Ks later.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You get sucked into it, and if your body isn't quite ready for that, then you can get a lot of injuries as well, because it it's 100K is a long way to run. So yeah, that's one side. And then just also like keeping things varied. So yeah, in training, just trying to mix it up. Like even if you're a trail runner, still do some running on road. Even if you're a 100K runner, still do some short races. Like try and vary it and just try and work on strengths and weaknesses and just keep it fun, because you get a lot of guys, especially in like track running, who are just, I only do this distance, I only do this training, and then it just seems to get a bit like boring and stale. I think trail running is good because you could do you could do like a 20K race here, you could do a 100K race, you could do one with big mountains, some faster stuff. Like you could just keep it fun. And I think also in South Africa, like the road running scene is so cool as well. So you could definitely do a few road races and just like, yeah, try and keep things fun.
It's starting to sound like my coach.
Yeah.
And, looking ahead for yourself, what are the goals? What are the, aspirations? What races are you still looking, that you want to kind of compete in?
Yeah, just trying to keep going.
Yeah.
No, I'm really keen to try, I think, a flatter, like 100K. So I was thinking about doing Tarawera early next year and just seeing how that is. It might not go well, it might be good, I don't know, but just something that's, obviously did Comrades Marathon last year, and it's quite a fast, it's a road race, but something that's also like that, like you still have to use the kind of road speed for, but it's trail. I think it might be nice to try, because I think that's maybe where my strength is, like the kind of faster trail races. So yeah, I think I'll try 100K there, and then after that do some different stuff. Not do UTMB. I'm still deciding on the calendar, but like definitely looking at some of those like flatter, longer ultras around 100K. Yeah.
And tell me, how do you kind of find that balance between the coaching and the racing now that you are coaching?
Yeah, I find it totally fine. I mean, I tend to coach people for quite different races to what I'm doing as well, which is good. Like a lot of road runners and things. But I think it's nice just to think about other people's training and like working on them and kind of looking at their development as well. And then it's just refreshing. And then sometimes you get ideas, and it's funny because like for a long time I was coached, and then I was coaching other people. And then in the last few months I thought, I'm going to write my own plans again. And you think like, whoa, I've been writing plans for so many other people. I could write one for like, what would I do if I wrote my own plan? And then now I've got like loads of ideas and think, yeah, I'll try this, I'll try that. I'll use the session that I used on someone else because that's worked.
Yeah.
And I really love coaching people. Like I've been doing it quite a lot, like maybe 7 or 8 years now.
Sure.
So yeah, it's been good fun just to see like people's development and yeah.
Awesome.
I think just on that, Robbie, I know you like your ocean and music. Would you say like that's coaching, music, and say being on the ocean is like your go-to downtime, things that you look forward to?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, like being in nature as well. Like always, that's why I love coming here too. Like all the different animals, birds, insects you get. Like every time I'm out and about, I'm always like seeing something new, or snakes and lizards and all sorts. It's just so different growing up somewhere that's cold and has nothing. So
yeah, I saw a caracal yesterday, and
Oh, wow.
I was on my own, and I didn't bring my phone.
Oh, no.
I went berserk. I'm just like,
whoa.
You're like, just hold on, stay there. I just want to go get my phone.
It's like it's in the parking lot.
Where
so I
was
think
that?
that's Newlands.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's like I want to do that segment again. Just see if I can see that caracal again.
Yeah, wow.
I was so blown away. And I get home, I phoned my mom. I was like, I saw a caracal. She's like, what is that? I'm like, it's a wildcat. It's like this. I was like, you know what? Just
Yeah,
She's like,
yeah.
okay, isn't that dangerous?
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
no. It's like, so yeah,
amazing,
that's. I think I like that about South African trails as well. You can so many experiences just going around, and people capture this path adders, boom slangs, and it's just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're not getting scared of it.
Yeah, it's the both, but sometimes being scared is also, it kind of makes it a bit more exciting.
Yeah.
There's a
Definitely.
fine line between like, enjoyment and being terrified.
And finally, you've got pizza in your bio. So what is your favorite pizza toppings?
Depends on the mood, the situation, but I do really like ones with, like when you get the fresh cherry tomatoes, rocket, parmesan. It's quite nice. Like if you're in Italy, yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah, there's one I get at home. This in this place that I train in Scotland a lot. It's like a little Italian cafe, and they do like vegetarian pizza, but I get it with Italian sausage on it as well.
Oh wow,
just to
okay.
make it more. But it's got these aubergines that have been like marinated in garlic oil,
Sure.
and then on top, and then this like Italian sausage with like fennel and things. So that's a good one.
No red hot chili peppers.
Sometimes I've done the Diavola or whatever, but I got a bad story about that when me and my friend got Diavola pizzas, and then we went to do our long run the next day. And
Oh,
Yeah.
that's smart. That's
spicy.
Yeah. And have you found any good pizzas in Cape Town?
Yeah, I mean, I've had pizza probably in about 10 different places or more.
Yo.
I can't remember all the names of them, but
Yeah.
Ager is one of the
Oh,
favorite
yeah.
ones. Yeah,
Yeah.
I really like there.
And it helps that it's in a beautiful location, so you can go post-run or pre-run if that's your vibe.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
No, we're planning a run to finish at Ager sometime in the next wee while, but
Yeah. Amazing.
Cool.
Amazing. Thank you very much. This was
thanks,
incredible.
cheers. Thanks for having me.
Feeling fired up after this incredible episode? Dive deeper into the world of trail running by exploring our other episodes, available wherever you get your podcasts. We're eagerly awaiting your feedback as well, so connect with us on Instagram at Trail Chasers Pod. Don't hold back. Like, comment, message, and share your thoughts. Until next week, keep chasing those trails.